in my childhood, I was terrified of like not being able to provide for myself. Literally so terrified. And so I overcompensated for that. I was in a rush to become an adult, and that consumed so much of my life, you guys. It consumed so much of my life. I remember my cousin calling me one day. She was like, I just feel like you've never had a childhood. And that really struck me. And after that phone call, I started looking around me and I was like, man, like, nothing about my childhood at that time was current in my life. Nothing. And that was so disappointing. But don't worry, I made up for it. Present day. After that phone call and tons of other things that happened in between, I realized a great life that I thought I was living with all my accomplishments and everything else, I felt so empty. And so the first thing that I did was escape. I went to New York City. I was nomadic. During that time, man, I discovered that life is not about the next opportunity. Like, genuinely, it is not about the next opportunity. Life can be peaceful. In my early 20s, I was like hustling, grinding, like really trying to provide for myself and make a name for myself. I lacked peace. Through being nomadic, one of the most beautiful lessons that I learned is that nature is my success. Being connected to nature is my success. And with those 3 lessons, my life became so magical. And as you guys know, I'm an avid fantasy reader. It actually gave me the language of using magic. I was really captivated by magic and magical systems in books. And I was wondering, how could I put that into my life? Like, how can I make that real for me based on all the things that I learned while I was nomadic? So there are like at least 3 things that I have really been honing in on. I'm not perfect and I'm not looking for perfection. I don't think any of us should be looking for perfection. It's all about progress. I have been in this like growth path of making my life as magical as possible and holding myself accountable of that. Because when you become a magical bearer, you need to hold yourself accountable. And so that's what I've been doing along this journey. Peace is one of the things that, for me, I hold myself at a high regard for. And I kind of see it as like if you think of your favorite game, like whatever your favorite game is, there's probably always like some kind of like shield or like barrier like aspect. Or if you're a book person, like the protagonist and like the hero of the book. So my hero, and I'm sorry, this is not gonna set well for some of you. My like hero out of my favorite series, Harry Potter, was Dumbledore pre-Deathly Hallows because he messed me up after Deathly Hallows. Another conversation for that later as well. I was like, if I had like Dumbledore like as the person to like shield me, like that shield that he creates is my peace. It's a boundary that I have, it literally defends everything that comes my way. And whenever I feel like there is anything that's trying to penetrate that barrier, it's got to go. And sometimes I'm not always present enough, unfortunately, to dismiss something so fast. So at least I know if it's coming my way, I take time to reflect and say, okay, this situation that I'm going through is something that I just have to work through and then I'll be able to find solace, for the future? Or is it something that like I can immediately just like totally let go? And so there's a sense of accountability there, self-accountability there that I've really been working on to make sure that I don't compromise my peace. And it has turned out to be such a magical element in my life. And as a matter of fact, I have been so diligent, and I want to encourage this for all you guys out there selfishly. I have been so diligent about finding small pieces of peace throughout my day, because there are not peaceful things that happen throughout my day all the time, just to reconnect with myself and with my heart. The second thing that has brought so much magic into my life, and maybe could to yours, is curiosity. Now, I'm not talking about the curiosity that we're often invited into. I'm talking about the kind of curiosity when you are in the midst of frustration. When I was in college, I had a roommate. She and I always butted heads. And it was so bad because, like, I'm not a person who likes to carry around negative energy if I don't have to. Obviously, I'm a cozy girl. I feel like I was kind of a cozy girl back in the day before I even knew it. It was just bothering me that we were butting heads so much. I remember being in my room and just thinking over and over, why are we butting heads? Why are we butting heads? This literally makes no sense why me and this girl cannot get along. And I had a real moment with myself, and I realized the reason why I despised her is because I was jealous of her. Yeah. So one day, I don't know how this even happened. I just remember we were in the kitchen making breakfast. We ended up on the couch, and we discovered that we were both jealous of each other for different reasons. So I was jealous because she was so good at the English language. She was so good with her wording, with her sentence structures, with her writing. And at the time, I was in journalism. And these were all things that I was learning, but she was already so advanced. And we were the same age, and she wasn't even going to school for journalism. She was jealous of my work ethic. She saw how organized I was, how I self-managed, things of that nature. I had no idea. And we discovered because of curiosity, and that was not a moment where she was inviting me to be curious about her. It just happened through my self-reflection. That's that invitation element that I'm talking about. Once we discovered this, between each other, we lived in harmony ever since then. Unfortunately, we are not friends, presently, but I was so happy to have that moment and that memory because my curiosity really helped me realize that jealousy is a wasted opportunity. It is literally a cover up for something that we probably want from someone that we see. Instead of, having all that negative energy towards someone, we have an opportunity to figure out what is it that they have that maybe we want. And I don't see anything wrong with wanting to explore that or reaching out to someone and mentioning that to them. Because I feel like envious is just like an excuse for like desiring something that somebody has that you don't have, which is perfectly fine. You got to be careful about who you're jealous, about. Being jealous of someone who goes out and, they're traveling. Like I know some like 20-year-olds that have too many stories from too many 20-year-olds. I'm sorry to come after you guys, but they're jealous of their friends who are getting married at 23 and they're in Greece and they're taking Instagram photos. Now, if you're looking at that and you're like, man, I want to be a traveler. Man, I want to be intentional about love. Sure. I think that's more of the positive way to go about it versus being envious of that person for the sake of like who they are and what they're projecting. Because when those pictures are done being taken, you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. You don't know how much debt they could be, accruing, because they're making bad financial decisions. You don't know what's going on. And there's no point of being jealous in that way. That's not the kind of jealousy I'm talking about. I've come to the conclusion that curiosity is a superpower. And we can leverage it. And I feel like the best way to leverage it is when like you don't even see it coming. It helps to make less assumptions about situations and especially about people specifically. The last thing that I'll say that has made my life like so magical and just like, so good, like your favorite meal, like whatever your favorite meal is, mine's spaghetti. And I'm like, magic spaghetti. No, I have realized that setting boundaries has worked so well for me in making my life magical. And I know, we've all heard this idea. I remember a few years ago where I did compromise my boundaries for someone, and it was for a romantic relationship. Prior to dating this gentleman, I told myself that I would respect where I am in my growth path. Because there's a lot of things that I've experienced and that I've learned. And I was like, the next person I date, they got to be where I'm at or better. And that's just it. I cannot compromise on that just for the sake of wanting to be kind or helpful immediately. I noticed that he had a lot of financial issues. He also had a lot of issues with acceptance. It took its toll, throughout our relationship, which was like between like 4 or 5 months or so. I reflected on this and I was like, he has so many issues financially. And before the men get in the comments and complain that women about money, It's not that. This is not what I'm trying to argue here. I was worried about his finances for him. His finances had nothing to do with me. Of course, they play a part when you become a part in partnership with someone. And I don't know why people don't like to like talk like that or talk about that with some people, anyways. Like how someone treats their money with themselves is how they're going to treat it in a relationship. That doesn't change. That doesn't change. I don't know if everybody has that reality, but that's the reality. In my world, I'm just gonna say in my world, because I don't want to speak for everybody. Whatever. He did not have his finances right, and I saw how much it was stressing him out. And I was reflecting on like, is this a situation where I help him with his finances and see where things go from there? Or is this a situation where I'm going to honor where I'm at and push forward? And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I made the decision that, we just weren't on the same growth paths. And I did not want that experience. And so we sat down on Valentine's Day. Why? I didn't mean for that to happen, but it just so happened it was on Valentine's Day. We sat down and I explained all this to him. I was very clear of like where we were and our growth paths were just very different. And I wasn't trying to belittle him or anything like that. And after the conversation, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, actually, this is a relief. I was like, boy, if I didn't call that, because I could feel his spirit dwindling. I could feel that what I was bringing to the table was just a bit much. Not because he couldn't achieve the same thing, which I'm sure at this point he has, but it was because we were just on two completely different paths. And I had a little bit more experience with a lot of the things that he was having a hard time in. And that was just the nature of that situation. And I'm so happy that I stuck to my boundary. What I'm not too satisfied about was that I waited a little bit too long to tell him this. But, I feel I have a genuine heart, and it's sometimes hard to approach this kind of situation. So it was hard for me. And so the timing, wasn't as quick as I really wanted it to be. But I'm happy that I still stuck to it. And I'm not in that situation anymore. And I didn't default to having that experience of having to build somebody up in that kind of way. And because of that, core memory as well, I haven't compromised since that time when it comes to finding a partner who is financially literate, because that makes a really big difference when you are in partnership and when you're seeking a partnership. And we should not feel bad about that. Granted, I'm speaking from a lot of privilege. Like, I get that I'm an American in the United States, and there are a lot of things that I've already said in this video that I'm always going to say, and it's within the confinement of my life experience, and that I am very aware of that what I'm saying is it's privileged. A lot of it is, and I get that. So no need to point that out to me in the comments. If that does happen, I already know. So these three things have led me to live such a magical freaking life. Even like romantically with my partner right now, oh my gosh. Like, we were not living as magical as I wanted us to live when we first started living together. Living with a man is an adjustment, whiplash. It's an adjustment. I told myself I've got to approach our situations that are difficult with curiosity. And we have lived in so much like such positive energy ever since we've really taken that on of being curious about why we're doing certain things in the house versus making assumptions. So selfishly, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, but I want us all to live as magical as we possibly can. I want to encourage you guys to consider this, really reflect on it. That's what I want to encourage you to do is to reflect on it. And if you're someone who's like, Vanessa, I got the keys, girl. Like, I'm living magically already. Well, then share below. Share in the comments below. I want this to be a reflection time for all of us. I love hearing about everyone's, like, people's stories. That's why I became a journalist, because I'm so curious about people's journeys and their stories and how they get to where they are mentally, energetically. Feel free to share. It was nice chatting with you. And hey, cheers to living magical.
You're a great communicator. If nobody's never told you.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.